Howdy, partners, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang channel. Thanks for joining me once again. Before I dive into today's review, I do want to mention if you enjoy the Gaming Gang and would like to support the outlet, you can do so in a few ways. First, by utilizing our affiliate links to the One Bookshelf sites, such as DriveThruRPG, and to do so, simply visit thegaminggang.com, click on one of our banner ads. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get a small portion of that sale. You can also make a one-time donation by way of PayPal or become a monthly member of our Patreon. You'll find links in the show notes. Also in those show notes, you'll find an invite link to our Discord server. It's absolutely free, so be sure to hang with the gang over on Discord. Today, I'm sharing my review of High Noon at Midnight for the Cypher System from Monte Cook Games. This 224-page hardcover is written by Bruce R. Cordell. It's available now, carries an MSRP of $49.99, or you can grab the PDF at DriveThruRPG for $18.99. Having said all that, let's swing out over to the other camera because here I've got High Noon at Midnight. A few things to mention before we get stuck in. First of all, my friends over at Monte Cook Games were kind enough to provide me with this review copy, but neither I nor anyone else affiliated with the Gaming Gang has received any other sort of compensation for me to share this review with you. It's important you know that. We're also not going to look at each and every page of the book. I do want to give you a good feel for what you're going to find inside. Also, keep in mind, this is not a standalone book. This is a supplement for Cypher System, so you need to have that system's rule book in order to utilize High Noon at Midnight. There are also some adventures that are contained within. So if you're a player and your game master has picked this up, maybe they just haven't started running it yet. Maybe they're talking about picking this up. Keep in mind, even though I am going to stay spoiler-free, as I flip through, you may see some things which ruin some of the surprises of the adventures. Just letting you know. And then, of course, if your game master is thinking about buying High Noon at Midnight, let them know about this review. That way they can approach this and make a far more informed buying decision. First thing we'll do is take a peek at the credits page. As I'd mentioned, this is written by Bruce R. Cordell. But you know what? A lot of other folks worked very hard on this to bring this to life too. So let's give credit where credit is due. If you're not familiar with High Noon at Midnight, maybe you didn't see my first look video. This is a Weird West supplement for Cypher System. It's broken up into 4 sections. We're going to start off with a bit of information about what the Weird West is, as well as a lot of really cool content devoted towards building your own Weird West. Then we'll get into the player characters and how we've got some tweaks to the Cypher System as far as our characters go. We've got actually quite a few different character options as far as our types here. Of course, we'll have new descriptors and foci and gear and such. We do have a fully fleshed out setting also included in the book. I am going to say I don't consider the setting to be Weird West. I'll explain why when we get to that point. Maybe you'll disagree with my definition of Weird West. Regardless, we'll talk about that in just a bit. And then we have 3 full-length adventures as well as a couple of Cypher shorts to get us started in the world of the Ghost Range. So we're going to get our introduction. We'll also start talking about the Weird West world building. Of course, we're going to tackle the various different types of Weird West settings that you can create, the various different themes of those settings, which of course you can kind of mix and match however you'd like. So of course, we've got a lot of options available to you. So as an example, maybe you're thinking about doing something which is relatively historically adjacent, but maybe there's something different in the timeline that sets the events in motion for a completely different history. Or maybe there's magic. Maybe there's monsters. Maybe we've got demonic forces, possibly an alien invasion, and the final remaining bastion of resistance just happens to be the Western United States. We've got options for more of a science fiction or steampunk approach to the Weird West, or you can pretty much mash it all together however you would like. So we're going to have a lot of information about that. Something I really dig in the world building section, we've got a lot of different random tables just for various different things. So as an example here, we've got a table for outlaw hideouts. Not only are they providing you with an entry, I think the bigger benefit is the fact that we've got all of these really cool ideas and plot seeds, adventure nuggets, and so forth, even from just various different random tables like uncanny saloons. Something else I really dig in this section is the examples of GM intrusions based upon the sort of setting that you're creating. And even though Cypher System at its core mechanically is pretty simple, especially for the players, for the game masters, it can be a little trickier. And one of the things I think kind of trips some game masters are GM intrusions. So I really love the fact that we have the various different examples of intrusions that a game master might utilize. We've got some optional rules. We've got rules here for utilizing decks of cards in High Noon at Midnight, which of course, cards and card games and gambling play a big role, at least in the perception that people have of the Old West. We've got some rules here for using a D20 to replace a deck of cards. We have other more narrative rules for gambling and such. We'll get into the threats and hazards of the Weird West, as well as a relatively short bestiary. As far as our stat blocks, something that I've seen with most of the Cypher System releases, I've had an opportunity to take a peek at in review, which are not a lot, let's be honest. But one of the things that's really impressed me with the bestiary or NPC sections that we get is the fact that they're pretty concise. They normally don't take up more than a page. And they really do focus on how would a game master utilize this, as opposed to what the thing does or construct or monster, creature, what have you. We go a little further than that. How would the game master use that in an adventure, in an encounter? And I really like that a ton. Next, we'll move into our Weird West player characters. So here we've got new types, and the new types, of course, are going to be built off of the 4 types that we have in the Cypher System rulebook. And we've got quite a few. So we've got Gunslinger that builds off the Warrior, the Teacher, which builds off the Speaker. We've got the Prospector, who's an explorer with combat flavor, Doctor or Scholar, Alchemist, Engineer, which is the adept with technology flavor. So a lot of great options here. We get some new species like the Forge-born. So if you want to play as a construct, we have a bunch of new descriptors such as slick and trigger happy. And of course, we will have the foci as well. And with the foci, we'll get a breakdown of the various different abilities that those will open up as far as the tier advancement. So as an example, we've got Gambles It All Away. Gives us what's going on with that. What sort of effect does that have? And then we've got our various different tiers from 1 to 6. And of course, then we'll get into our different types and what sort of edges they have, as well as skills and abilities. So very nicely done there. We got a short section on the ciphers and artifacts of the Weird West. Once again, this is very, very welcome because I think the second aspect of Cypher System, which kind of trips up game masters, are the ciphers themselves. So really nicely done here. And we've actually got quite a few ciphers in here and artifacts also. Definitely like this a bunch. Then we're going to get into our default setting for High Noon at Midnight, and it is the Ghost Range. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, I do not consider this to be a Weird West setting, and I'll tell you why. Because by default, this is not on Earth. In my opinion, and of course I could be absolutely wrong here, but in my opinion, a Weird West setting has to take place in the Western United States. Now, you can do whatever you want as far as the history of the Western expansion, and it is problematic in so many different ways. But if you are looking to play a Weird West setting, it's the United States. That's why you don't have Weird West, which is Western Australia or Western Scotland or anything like that. A Weird West setting is the United States. Now, does that mean this is not any good? Absolutely not. This is very cool. I really like the fully detailed town of Midnight. Definitely like that. We get some more information about, the setting outside of the town, but Midnight makes for an excellent base of operations for the player characters, no matter what their tier is. And then, of course, we will get into our adventures. And there are 3 full-length adventures, which each has kind of a different vibe going on. So I like that quite a bit. Then, of course, we've got a couple of Cypher shorts, which are essentially designed just as a one-shot where maybe you finish it up in a session, maybe even a half a session, because they are pretty short. They're pretty much just set piece encounters as far as the adventures go. All in all, lots packed into this book. Now, let's swing on over to the other camera because I'm going to share some final thoughts, give this a review score, as well as let you know how High Noon at Midnight might stack up with other Weird West role-playing games out there, such as Deadlands or Haunted West, Weird Frontiers, etc. But first of all, let's talk about the production quality. Excellent. It's what I've come to expect from Monte Cook Games based on the handful of releases I've had an opportunity to get my hands on. Artwork throughout, really nicely done. Paper stock, nice and thick. This book is going to hold up to repeated use at your game table as long as you don't beat the hell out of it. As far as the contents of the book, I mean, it is jam-packed with a lot of goodies for a Cypher System. And there's a lot of leeway as far as the sort of Weird Western setting you want to create for yourself. Now, once again, I don't consider the Ghost Range setting Weird West. Is it weird? Yeah. Is it Western themed? Yeah, but it's not Weird West, but it's also really nicely done. And the 3 full-length adventures I like because they do work off of some really well-defined Western tropes. So very nicely done. Lots and lots of options here, not only for the game master as far as building their Weird Western world, but also for the players and the sorts of player characters that they're going to populate that Weird Western world with. I'm sure a lot of folks out there are kind of wondering, well, how does High Noon at Midnight stack up against the Deadlands and Haunted West and Weird Frontiers? Well, first of all, I'll tackle probably the big competition, and that is Deadlands. And I like Deadlands. I've reviewed the box set for Deadlands from Pinnacle Entertainment Group. Dig it a lot. I bought the original Deadlands and all the dime novels that came out. I really do like the setting. I think it is very cool. I think it's very unique, just like I do with, say, like Shadowrun. Now, one thing you have to keep in mind with Deadlands is that setting is pretty well established. You are kind of looking at certain events which are set in stone if you are going to utilize the present situation of the Deadlands universe. So what that basically means is it's not open to a lot of experimentation. The setting is pretty much baked into the cake. And that's not a big deal. But if you are a game master who's really looking to create your own thing, Deadlands probably wouldn't be the direction you go in. Also, Deadlands adventures are plot point campaigns, very, very linear. Now, I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing, depending on the players and game master, but they're not as narrative in their approach as, say, Cypher System would. As far as Haunted West goes, Haunted West does give players and game masters out there a great opportunity to run more of an alternate history sort of West. You don't have to delve into demons and monsters and magic and steampunk and aliens or anything like that if you don't want to. Now, of course, that's a big selling point of Haunted West, but still, you do have the opportunity to utilize Haunted West as a pretty straightforward, realistic Western role-playing game. That I wouldn't say is the same case. High Noon at Midnight is firmly in the camp of Weird West, aliens, magic, monsters, steampunk, what have you. And you can mix and match whatever mashup you'd like. That is High Noon at Midnight. As far as Weird Frontiers, I personally have no experience with it. I've actually never seen the book. We do have a written review over at thegaminggang.com, but I didn't review it. It was one of our contributors, and they liked it quite a lot. I have heard good things about it, but as far as how does High Noon at Midnight stack up against it, I would have absolutely no clue. Just got to be honest. But getting back to High Noon at Midnight, what are my overall thoughts? Personally, I think this is absolutely jam-packed with content for game masters and players out there. And if you are interested in any sort of weird Western setting for Cypher System, this is going to be an absolute must-have. I have to be honest, though. I do wish that maybe there had been a little more focus on just a handful, maybe 3 or 4 themes as far as the sort of Weird West. So maybe if it was magic and monsters, and then maybe steampunk, maybe alternate history, and then alien invasion. I think it would have been a tighter product that way. But once again, there are a lot of options contained within High Noon at Midnight. I like this quite a lot. So on a scale of 0 to 10, I give High Noon at Midnight for Cypher System from Monte Cook Games an 8 out of 10. Your mileage, of course, may vary, but I thought this is an excellent addition to the various genre books which are available from Monte Cook Games. All right, that is it for this time out. If you liked the video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already, and if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell. It'll not only let you know when I share videos such as this review, it'll also inform you when my live stream, the Gaming Gang Dispatch, airs Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings right here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find here on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Thank you very much for watching. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. And until I see you next time, I certainly hope all of you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.